Fantasy football. Oh, that's right. That's why you're here. So I thought I would talk a little bit about my new strategy going into this year, and maybe you could adopt it for yourself. We talked about it last week, where I have broken all of the teams down into teams I will not draft from, because I think they're going to be bad teams with bad offenses and also bad defenses that are getting beat up a lot, which then doesn't help your offense. Now you're down by 30 and you're the Atlanta Falcons. You can't air it out with Marcus Mariota. You're going to be in deep shit. So I changed it up a little bit from last week. I have 8 teams in my do not draft. I have 11 teams in my question mark, and then I have 13 teams that I absolutely will draft from. And that was kind of surprising to me. I thought that the numbers of bad teams would be more than the good teams, but the fact that I have 13 teams that I feel 100% comfortable drafting from makes me feel better with this strategy. We talked about it last week a little bit, but I'll tell you where I made some additions, and it was New England. Houston, Pittsburgh, Atlanta, Carolina, Giants, Bears, Seahawks. Those were the 7 that I had from last week that were no-goes for me. I stand by that. I also have told you that Cleveland could easily become my 9th, but my 8th was New England, because the more that I sat and thought about it, who the fuck do I want from New England? Who? I mean, Devontae Parker is going to be their new number 1, but they've still got Jacoby Myers, and they've got, all these other players. They've got the Hunter Henry and the running back committees, Mac Jones. I also think that New England has a tough schedule, and I could see them losing a lot of games this year. I could see Mac Jones maybe taking a step back. I know everyone's up talking big on him in training camp, but I'm just not on board. I'm not going to get on board with New England this year. So I'm going to add them to my I will not draft from them. And what that means is that when you're looking at the best available, as I'm doing my mock drafts, it kind of helps me, because then I go, okay, so if up at the top are all of these Falcons and Panthers and Steelers and Houston Texans, but then I get to like a Charger, I think the best example is in the tight end position, because you are going to get a lot of tight ends from that group. Freiermuth, Kyle Pitts, what's his name from the Seahawks, Noah Fant, Hunter Henry. You're going to get a lot of tight ends that you go, oh, well, they're a good tight end, they're a good fantasy football tight end. I'm going to skip because of how I feel about the team. And that's something that I didn't do last year when I drafted 2 Pittsburgh Steelers that were starters on my team of Chase Claypool and Najee Harris. And Pittsburgh had a bad year. I know they ended up making the playoffs, but you look at them offensively, they started off so terrible that it started off me in a hole. Nobody should draft Chase Claypool ever again, by the way, in the history of the football. But yeah, I think those 8 teams are the bad teams, and I think that this is a new strategy that I'm going to give a shot. I'm going to give it a shot this year. In all my mock drafts, I think what happens too is that I look at them and go, they're on a good team, they're on a good team, they're on a good team. Okay, maybe McCole Hardman isn't, I'm Brandon Cooks, but I would say most of the time you're going to want somebody that's on a good offense. Let's just also say that on these good teams, let's say Stephon Diggs goes down. Well, now Gabriel Davis, he's the man. He is the fucking man. So I would rather Gabriel Davis over somebody on one of these bad teams. Deontay Johnson on the Pittsburgh Steelers. You can draft him if you want. Who's throwing him the fucking ball? You can draft Drake London if you want off the Falcons. Who's throwing him the fucking ball? So that's the reasoning behind Cleveland too. If it's Jacoby Brissett, I don't want that, because he's not going to take them to the promised land or be a good offense. My question marks grew substantially. Last week it was a little smaller. And then once talking about it, I realized there are definitely teams that I need to add to that. Detroit, Jacksonville, Dallas, Cleveland right now, that's with the Deshaun Watson clause in there. Baltimore, Jets, Titans, Cardinals, Packers, Saints, and the Washington Redskins. The Washington Redskins, you heard me. Yeah, so I think I stand by all of those. I think there are some that people are going to go, what? Like Arizona, Green Bay, that I would question. But again, out of those two teams that I just named, who are you drafting off of those teams? Okay, let's start with Green Bay. Obviously, if you're in a pinch, you don't really value the quarterback position that much, but you get to a point where you're ready to draft a quarterback and Aaron Rodgers is there. I get it. Aaron Jones, I get it. Receiver wise, I don't know. I know I put Christian Watson on a list of very intriguing people because somebody got to catch these balls and somebody is going to catch Aaron Rodgers' balls, but I don't know who it's going to be. I don't trust Alan Lazard. I don't trust Robert Tonyan. His other options are Sammy Watkins and Randall Cobb. So both of those gentlemen are in their 40s, I would imagine, in football years. And I'm more question mark than I am, oh yeah, that's a good team that was for sure going to kill it on offense. I think they struggle. I think, as I told you on my picks, I've got them going 10-7. And I get it, and I wouldn't not do it. That's what the question mark team means too. If I'm in a bind, sure, I'll draft from these teams if I have to. But I don't want to, and I want to stick to my check mark teams, which are who I believe are going to be the best teams in the league, like Buffalo, Los Angeles Rams, Tampa Bay Buccaneers, Philadelphia Eagles, the Bengals, the Dolphins, the Colts, the Chiefs, the Raiders, the Chargers, the Broncos, the 49ers, and lastly, and I had moments with it, but I believe it is a good call, is the Minnesota Vikings. There's a lot to value in the Minnesota Vikings just because of Justin Jefferson alone. You wouldn't not draft Justin Jefferson. He's going to go in the first round. And even Kirk Cousins. I mean, Kirk Cousins, fantasy football-wise, has put up good numbers in the past. I think he will again. I'm more, if Dalvin Cook and Derrick Henry and Ezekiel Elliott and Saquon Barkley are that used car that's on their way out the door, I think Dalvin Cook is maybe, I'm holding back a little bit of hope that he doesn't get hurt as much this year. Probably a long shot for that to become true, but I just thought, yes, Minnesota's a good team, and I would draft somebody from Minnesota, so I put them on the list. But yeah, I like the system as I'm doing mock drafts. Kind of make a list for yourself, see what you think are going to be the best teams on there, and just kind of tell yourself, like, don't draft from this team because they're going to be bad, and see where you're at the end of a mock draft. Maybe you don't love it. Maybe you're like, no, I'm going to go with the best available, even if that is somebody on the Steelers or if it is somebody on the Panthers. But for me, not so much.